Vraja Janarandana Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Gantra Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari. You sure it's sugar on top?
Yes, it's sugar. What is this?
Ice with sugar. Now we're going to make a chemical experiment. Well, what? Why do you think so? I can bet I can put 4 spoons of sugar inside, it will not overflow. Because it dissolves inside the water molecules. It's physics. Anyways. So today we are reading, according to the things sent to me, was verse 52, but somehow on the board is 53. I'm going to jump ahead. Nice verse.
Probably they mistook it that because yesterday was Chaitanya Charitamrita, they thought
Right.
52 was already ready.
Oh, exactly.
They put the next to 52.
So,
Did 52 last time Shrimad Bhagavatam?
I don't know. Whatever. Brahmanduribhiti stubhyam vimrigitam pataya sama kaschitsyam me vishokaya tvai pravrittaye vanam. That's not the verse, no? No. Okay. So to dissipate confusion, we will approach the Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etavatalam kalena Vyatikramane Vyatikrante name Prabhu Indriyartha prasangena Parityakta paramanna etavatalam kalena Vyatikrate name Prabhu Indriyartha prasangena Parityakta paratmanaha Etavatalam kalena Vyatikrate name Prabhu Indriyartha prasangena Parityakta paratmanaha. Prabhuji? Maharaj? Okay, Maharaj chanting. Concentrate, please. Say it again. Kalena Vyatikrante name Prabhu Indriyartha prasangena Parityakta paratmanaha. Word for word, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Etavata, so much. Alam, for nothing. Kalena, time. Vyatikrantena, pass it by. Me, my. Prabhu, oh my Lord. Indriya artha, sense gratification. Prasangena, in matter of indulging. Pratikyata, disregarding. Parama atmanaha, knowledge of Supreme Lord. Until now, we have simply wasted so much time so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate knowledge of Supreme Lord. Human life is not meant to be wasted like that of the animals in sense gratificatory activities, and must always engage in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, fearing, mating. But that is not engagements of the human being, although because of material body there is need of sense gratification according to regulative principles. So, in effect, Devagoti said to her husband, so far we have those daughters And we have enjoyed material life in aerial mansion, traveling all over the universe. These boons have come by your grace, but they have all been for sense gratification. Now, there must be something for my spiritual advancement. Amagyanatimmirandasya gyananjanashalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dadhati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami once said, you know what's the difference between the beginning cook and the experienced cook? The beginning cook, when he comes to the kitchen with his recipes in his head, and if there is one item missing, he cannot do. He cannot do the preparation. The expert cook is whatever there is kitchen, whatever there is, you should cook, and you can cook, and you will do the good things. In a class, a similar way, and if you prepare one verse and you have to read another verse, whatever comes, you have to be ready. So I'm not claiming to be a good cook or good class giving, experienced, but somehow this verse definitely is a part of the whole chapter, and as wonderful it is, we are kind of remembering the whole story, how it goes here, and although nothing in the verse, but in a purport, it is said. It is amazing that how Prabhupada, and it is great chance, I wouldn't say, but he many times refers to the Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, and he's expert in those extensions of the dialogues. Like Krishna says some verse, and Acharya, he is saying, actually, the dialogue goes like this. And he says, Arjuna first said that sentence, and then Krishna answered that, and Arjuna was thinking like this. And then, because Krishna was reading his mind, he answered already his thoughts, even without questioning. So such a way also here, it is said that although she is just saying that we spend our time in sense gratification, we need a knowledge for Lord, there is expansion of the dialogue. So we had the daughters, and we enjoyed the life in an aerial mansion, traveling all over the universe. I haven't heard actually that they traveled all over the universe. It was true? Some classes, some verses? Or I missed it? It was mentioned.
Yeah, everywhere with this.
Yeah. All over universe. That includes the down planets? Because universe has these 14 planetary systems, and they include the hellish planets, you know. I don't know. Is it allowed the aerial flying beautiful palaces to enter that region? And isn't it any influence? You have to have a very good airplane to be traveling in the heavenly regions and stay in a beautiful state of the things, because, you know, any fast flying plane, it falls in the water, it just crashes, you know. Same thing when we travel, whatever state of mind or things be when it comes to the conditions of the hellish regions, we get influenced, that's for sure. But there's a chance that saintly people like Narada Muni, or in this case, Kadama, with his wife, they could travel all the universe. Why would they do that? What would be the reason? For fun? Just, just for weekend, we go, every school kids, they usually weekend they go some kind of excursion, And sometimes you think, okay, teacher, this weekend we go to slaughterhouse. Would it be fun? I'm not sure. Although there is, yeah. I remember we went to the beer factory, We went to I think bread making factory as well. And of course the museums and stuff like that. You used to travel. And people who are traveling, they have a chance to learn the cultures of that region that they travel. Of course, if they are too much conditioned, they drag their own conditions to that area. So the tourists, travelers, or the school kids, they go to the place and they don't see it. They actually see it, but they don't observe it. They don't accumulate. They don't compare it to your own culture, to your own condition, to your own ideas. They're like, okay, I already know. You go to that beautiful place and you have already judgment. It's like, okay, I know everything. I go to Italy, I know everything about Italians. I go to Japan, yeah, I know everything about them. I read already. So you don't learn, you don't absorb, you don't compare to your own things. So traveling in the universe, or even traveling nowadays in many places, it is very good to see from one point of view how small the planet is. Currently, due to the mystical powers of metal flying around in the shape of airplanes, you can travel any countries. And the more you travel, the more you kind of feel it's not much around here, not much. And probably the same reason it is when you travel as a yogi, and I would say that was the undercover reason for Kadama Muni to bring her wife different places. So you kind of a little bit of get satiated, you get fulfilled, you don't want to travel anymore. Because for the Kshatriya type of woman, to conquer, especially the guys, for Kshatriyas, to conquer other places and the kingdoms, it is a must, It's a must, If you have your own conviction and idea how to live, you want to bring that beautiful idea to other countries. Of course, that means you are good Kshatriya. If you are terrible Kshatriya, you just want the things which belongs to those guys. You want to have taxes, you want to have wealth and bring it back home. You don't care how they live, Alexander the Great, probably he was traveling, he was trying to bring the culture to Germany, All the Greeks, they were traveling all over Europe, they were bringing the culture. Unfortunately, after a while, those barbarians who were living around this area with the bear skins, they kind of pushed back to the Greece and destroyed the whole culture. And I guess that was pretty disappointing for Greeks to see how the culture was destroyed completely by barbarians. Englishmen also tried to bring the culture all over the world, and now all the tribes of Indian tribes, they go back to the UK and they take it over all the UK. So it is true, when we travel around the universe in our mind, watching some, National Geographic movies, We've never been to Africa. I've never been to Africa. All those elephants and flamingos and stuff like that. But because somebody else traveled, somebody else took pictures, videos, now we can see. But at the same time, when we look at those lifestyles, we kind of tend to judge, to evaluate compare the things. So therefore, it is a little bit of a disappointment for Devahuti. We traveled so much. But why did we travel? We just wanted to watch, we want to look, we sense gratification. And many times it is, you not just the watch, you not just look at things, you identify. You think, this is mine. No? This is mine. Yes. And I think I quoted already one of the Upanishads. I was mentioning that for those people who don't have wealth, many times when you live in this world, you try for wealth. You endeavor, you work hard. But some of those living beings who come here, they don't have wealth. So for them, God gave eyes. Because this is a tendency. Whatever you look, you think, this is mine. You go shopping, eye shopping, it's called eye shopping. You go around and you think that nice dress or not that, I don't know what else there is mine. You already imagine yourself inside. There's a mannequin there standing. You kind of identify things. But if you are backed up with the knowledge and definitely the Devahuti, she was backed up with the spiritual knowledge, at least in the theory, because any proper Kshatriya education includes very intense and extended education given by Brahmanas. Whatever it is, even the court, the young ladies of the Kshatriyas, they spend the time with the family. You wouldn't be going home and just playing or going partying. If you are a proper Kshatriya woman, you would definitely accompany, Like currently we have a story, well not currently, but the story of queen, mother queen and two daughters, And they were accompanying everywhere. So before that, a couple of centuries ago, the kings were seen as the monarchs, They're a completely different class. But somehow, the Queen of England, the mother queen, and her two daughters, they were starting to travel in the 30s and 40s, just war times, They were small kids, like 5 and 7, like this. I can't remember what's the year difference. And they were traveling, and there was taken so many videos and pictures of them presented as the ideal family. Before it was just like, that's us and that's kings, forget it. There's a huge difference. So, but then the king's family with two daughters, one of them is current Queen of England, they were presented as ideal family. So because of that, it's kind of, the gap is a little bit made smaller. But the principle is same. They were never went to normal school. They were educated privately, and they were presenting those kids and taking part in all the king's celebrations and everything. So from the young age, you can already catch up how your father, how your mother interacts with the kings of other countries, with ministers and so on. So this is very important. So when you grow up and you actually are given a possibility to act yourself as a queen, or currently, the wife of the great sage, you remember those interactions. You remember those that knowledge which came. But just a couple of days ago, we had this discussion of the woman being less intelligent just during eating the lunch. Prasadam. You remember that? You were not there. Who was there? Ramananda was there for sure. Who was Govinda there? They had 3-4 devotees and sitting. You're like, how is that? How to understand Prabhupada is saying that woman is less intelligent? So which side we are going to ask first? Women's side or men's side? Who knows? Who has explanation?
intelligent to act with material things a bit more than man. Maybe, I don't know.
There is a point, subtle point. I know what you mean, but the words coming though. Okay, one from here. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I think because there is the intelligent and there are the emotional, the mind. And the emotional is more covering, so the intelligent cannot really go on the top. And the provost, they can separate this. The women's.
That was one point which we discussed, yes, in lunchtime. Yes, Prabhuji?
Men are more rational. So,
What means rational? Theoretical?
not radical. The thing is,
Mechanical?
the decisions are made on, like said, rational, but they're not affected by emotions, but women are constantly affected by emotions.
Emotions are not actually part of intelligence. If we say of emotions, that's more area of the mind. And this is a different thing. So, I've seen men very emotional, you know. My father personally, when he watches a movie, he cries every time. You know? He just cries, you know. He's so emotional, you know, in man's body. It doesn't matter, but he's intelligent. Prabhupada explains that there's 4 types of intelligence. Actually, 3 types of intelligence and 1 not intelligent. Who remembers that? Yes, Mataji. You have to translate. Yeah, sorry.
Well, what I understood from now is that women have different kind of duties than men, and therefore they require different qualities in men. So this intelligence is actually not important.
Not important. No, intelligence is always important. Intelligence is the ability to abstract. Yes, to abstract, to somehow look to the situation a little bit unattached or in a proper concept, not in proper, I would say, system of coordinates, you know, with a proper knowledge, I would say. Yeah, the knowledge is a part of intelligence. Emotions doesn't care about knowledge, you know. I just feel like this. So therefore, we're talking about intelligence. So, which I refer to Prabhupada's thing that there is 3 types of ways intelligence is kind of perceiving or being applied. First, by hearing. Have you? I think this is Nectar of Instructions or Ishopanishad already started away. Not exactly. Yeah, one's is hearing. So he says that somebody hears that stealing is not good. And he says, yes, okay. Of course, there may be some explanations, how and why, but he gets it. He realizes that. So realization means applying the things just by hearing. Second level of intelligence is you hear it, but it's not enough. You have to see it. You have to see it. Somebody else to do it. You know. The third class of intelligence is you hear it, doesn't make sense, or you see it somebody else doing that, also kind of you're on the brakes, and when you have to go through yourself. And when you go through yourself, that's called practical intelligence. And the fourth type of intelligence, which is not intelligent, you don't learn from first 3 ones. You hear stealing is not good, You see others being punished for the stealing. You go for yourself, and you get punished, and you still don't learn. So this is fourth class intelligence. So Prabhupada says that intelligent man means he can learn from hearing. Woman's intelligence, she learns from practical experience. That's more. Therefore, because of that gradation, we say it's less intelligent. To be fair, there is a what's the word? Cleverness. Women are more clever than the man. You know the word clever?
What's the difference between
Intelligence and cleverness. Cleverness, actually, if you want to find all these words, Nectar of Devotion have these, each of word, I think there are 64 qualities of Krishna, and each of quality is given by Rupa Goswami, what it means. And cleverness was doing things efficient, or doing many things at once, This is a cleverness. And women are more clever than a man for, I don't know, I wouldn't say like exact number, but like 3 or 5 times. I heard 4 times, 4 times clever. So man is more intelligent because of theory, can listen, can read scriptures and learn and apply the knowledge and realize knowledge from that. So a woman has to be gone through the experience. So if you sit and 2 free men talk, and one says, I've been traveling around the world, and many nice places, but it's really nothing there. I've been, I can say I've been many places. I can count. There was one program in a Google map thing, and when every time you click somewhere you've been on a mark or check in or something like that, it puts a star on it. So according to that program, I have been visiting 15% of the world. 15%, countries or cities or whatever place. So it's quite a bit, Not America, not that continent, but Asia, Europe, stuff like that, Australia. So if you sit in the company of man and somebody's talking, I've been there, I've seen this, and okay, I can definitely say to you all, Chinese food in China is tasteless. And it's like nothing. It's no thing, All the Chinese food in the Western world, in America somewhere, Chinatown, it's much like 5 times better. But original China food is useless, They are just complete meters. You go original Chinatown in China, it's just like, it's terrible smelling, It is terrible. There's no nice spice. All the spices look blackish, brownish, If there's like 20 spices, and then no smell, no taste at all. So if you listen that, if you are man intelligent, you accept it. Why not? Woman, she said, no, I have to try it. That could be the difference, And this case also, Devahuti, if she would sit next to the husband and husband will tell, okay, heavenly planets is like this, and the earthly planets is like this, and all the places, and the gardens of Indra, and all these things are like this. It's not enough. You have to experience. So therefore, one of the things was, according to her nature, and that's a duty of the husband, according to her nature, he built the palace. Because that was her condition she used to live in. And when you feel like in your own element, you can advance, you can step further. There's a statement of Prabhupada when he was describing the story of Gajendra. You know the story of Gajendra? The king elephant, not just any elephant, king elephant. There's some of those elephants which have a huge size, Besides that, they have not only 2, they have 4 tusks. Special king elephants which have 4 tusks. You know? And he was one of them. But he somehow was dragged by crocodile out his element. You know? He is strong, he is extremely strong on a dry land. But crocodile somehow dragged him into the water. In the water you are kind of like floating, your heavy weight, you cannot step in the ground, you're just slippery and this like that. And he, although his strength was like 10 times more than the crocodile, in a dry land he could step just 1 foot on the head of the crocodile and he's done, you know. But because he was in the water, he was completely out of his power. So also it is said, in a discussion, for example, in the book distribution marathon, it is quite of a advice in talking to people, don't get too much into their area. Because they will convince you. You will not feel comfortable. You will feel without proof, you know. They're definitely, you know, you're not going to discuss some computer science with a guy on the street because he will feel he is more knowledgeable. And you with your books will be like, you know, shut up, you know. What do you know? I know 10 times more about computers or cars or anything, you know. So therefore, we try to avoid those things which are not in our nature. In discussing with people, I say, okay, that's your area, I agree, but let's stick to the point. And Prabhupada was perfect. When he was discussing those points, he knew the weak part of any philosophy of any man. And he was pushing and pressing and confirming that thing until the man will give up. You know, I said, yes, Prabhupada, you are true. That's very important. So when we talk about this kind of traveling around here in the world, and the devotee, she went through the personal experience of traveling, of enjoying the senses. She could say, yes, this was useless. But that also has to be understood together with her experience of Kshatriya association with Brahmanas. Because otherwise you travel around and you think, okay, I traveled only 50%. So there's 85 more. So maybe there is something good. Unless you have a little bit of a dint of that spiritual knowledge, it will be impossible. It's like story with the Vamandev. Remember? When he was offered, he asked for 3 steps of land. And Bali Maharaj said, come on, I'm a king, you know. I'm a king, I can offer you a palace, I can offer you the whole, the kingdom, you know, maybe the whole planet maybe even, because, you know, he was a king of the universe, not just the planetary system, you know. And what Vamandev said? He said, if I'm not satisfied with 3 steps, I will not be satisfied with 100 steps or 1,000,000 steps. You know? So therefore, the quality of the person is to be satisfied with what you have. But the question is, you have, you know. Because our false ego, as I said, our eyes, we tend to identify. So when you travel around, you think, oh, it's all mine. Yeah, it's my Germany. It's my country, you know. My country. I am born here. But you're born where? Some city, you know, some birth-giving house, you know, not born in every corner of the Germany. You're born in one small street of the huge country. Why identify with this? Because of language? Because of people. The same German country has so many different dialects, you know. You have to identify, okay, I'm born in Bayern, you know. There's nothing to do with the East or North Germany. There's nothing. They speak different language, you know. So depends on how your false ego is big, you expand it. And that's also one of the things which given by Lord as a nature of the woman to have this false ego which tends to extend. Man can say, yeah, they have, but that bond is not so strong. You can easily be detached from those things. Woman's thing is more to be attached to the family, to the husband, to the children, identifying with the country, you know. So therefore this balance of being attached too much has to be nullified, has to be, let's say, shown the fault of it by the spiritual knowledge coming from Brahmanas who have the scriptures. They have theoretical knowledge, but we also have this tendency, because from the point of view of Krishna, all the energies are female. So soul as such is female. Any energy, like he's only male. All other are female, you know. And we're trying to play the male roles. That's of course very ultimate sense of male-female principle. But the thing is, if you want to be a proper man, you have to be having that female part of you of being servant, being subordinate to something. So woman's nature is to be subordinate to the man, if it's proper man. If he's a coward man, or if he's a ruffian and maybe sexist womanizer, a woman will tend to have a tendency to become those feminists, you know. We can do it ourselves. We don't need man. Because the disappointment in having association with such a useless man gives the rise to why we need them. You know. Why? And there's a few cultures, quite a bit of cultures, where there's it's called matriarchat, you know. Matriarchat, you know. And I've seen quite a bit of the things in Thailand and Malaysia and some Asian countries. Matriarchat means everything is around woman, you know. If a man gets married, where he goes? He goes to the wife's house. Because the house in which wife was living belonged to the mother, not to the father. So the woman has a house, husband lives there, in her house. So the daughter gets married and she brings the husband again to the mother's house. In the best scenario, they built one more house next to the mother's house. And sometimes in some poor countries it even goes to extreme. So because there is not enough land to build a house, one woman gets married to the 3 husbands, so she doesn't have to divide the whole property, you know. There are such a things. This is completely opposite, you know. If we see the story of Devahuti and the 5 husbands, you know, this is a completely different story. Although it looks similar, you know, but it's completely different, you know. So therefore, all material things are very much perverted reflections of the spiritual reality. The spiritual reality, it is that you supposed to have this theoretical realization of Krishna's presence everywhere. And this is what she is striving for. You gave me daughters. You gave me this palace. But, as in 2 verses ago was mentioned, you didn't give me fearlessness. I'm fearful. I'm full of anxiety. The verse which I was trying to give it today, There was one word, it's called Vishoka, Vishokaya, for the solace, yes. I am disturbed. I need solace. I need pacifying. I'm in full lamentation, I'm very unhappy. And therefore I need someone who pacifies me. All the time. Every day. So if you leave, and interesting here, Prabhupada says in the previous verse, that she says, what will happen if you depart and take sannyas? That's Prabhupada's translation. In Sanskrit it says, vanam, when you go to forest. So it could be vanaprastha as well. So when you go away, I'll be disturbed. Because I need company. So therefore, please stay a couple days more, or at least, that's the most amazing thing. Stay 2-3 days. That's a program maximum. Or at least until the male child is born. So that means the less time. This is amazing because you remember the story. She got pregnant and the same day, exactly same day, she got 8 daughters. And they're already grown up. Don't have to for months and months and months. Straight away grown up. So this is the unique feature of the heavenly planets, We have to remember. And still, doesn't matter. Even in such advanced situation, the womanly nature is to have someone around who gives you pacification. And Krishna himself, he likes to pacify other devotees. For example, in the first canto, when it's kind of extension of Bhagavad Gita, when the Kurukshetra was finished, Krishna was planning to go back to his Dwarka, but he stayed for some while. And he gave the pacification, he gave solace, he gave support to the Arjuna. He gave support to the Yudhishthira. Although he became king, he was in big misery because he was thinking, because of me becoming king, all the people were killed. That's true. It was Krishna's desire to put Yudhishthira as a king. And in order to achieve that goal, all the people were killed. So he was in the big depression. He's supposed to be happy and glorious as a normal kshatriya, Cannot imagine even what kind of joy and party would Duryodhana have when he gets a kingdom, He was already king, but that was the miserable, greed. He was a king. He was a king of the world, but he was not enough. He also had to have a kingdom of Pandavas. That was a small part of it. He was a king of all earth, except the kingdom of Pandavas. But you have to have that one as well. So, if you're not happy with 3 steps, you will not be happy with the whole earth. So therefore, now Yudhishthira was king, he was king of the earth, and he was unhappy. Again, His sister Subhadra, she was unhappy because her young child, Abhimanyu, just married, and a couple of days after he was killed. And Krishna had to give this pacification, and he is happy to give any pacification. But the question is, not everyone. He didn't go to the Dhritarashtra, okay, your 100 sons are died, it's okay. No, only to the devotees. He likes to pacify devotees. So therefore, he gives the personal experience. But we also have to understand that many cases he gives a kind of personal association by his absence. And that's very high subject. When Akrura took Krishna away from Vrindavan, all the gopis were in complete misery. And this is quite unusual because every other place in Shrimad Bhagavatam which I found. This word Vishoka, Vishokaya, Vishokha, all the different versions means no limitation. But that and one verse, when gopis, they were watching how Krishna was leaving the Vrindavan on a chariot, and they were watching like statues until the last flag, until the last dust were going away, and still they're watching, following the mind. And finally they understood. He left. And that verse, 10th canto, says, Vishokaya, deep anxiety. It's so unusual. But if you study the Sanskrit, like there's karma, akarma, and vikarma. What do you mean vikarma? Who knows? Yeah, based on word karma is activity. Karma means sinful. Now we study other word. There's a jnana and a vijnana. What that means? Jnana means knowledge, and vijnana means bad knowledge, right? Realized knowledge. So this V can use both ways. Either it is, emphasizing, tripling, doubling the whole meaning. So karma means activity. But because we say karma is a bad activity for the results, vikarma means doubling, tripling it, means very much for the results. It's useless. The same jnana, vijnana means realized knowledge. So shoka means lamentation. Vishoka means no lamentation, like above lamentation. But it could also mean doubling, tripling that lamentation. So Sanskrit is so amazing. So here she is a devotee, is in anxiety because she was not having this fearlessness, not having the solace, not having the peacefulness in her heart. And until she went through the personal experience of talking with a person whose relative, whose false ego was part of her family as a child, she couldn't say. If somebody would else say on the street, some brahmana comes to the devotee, says, I'll teach you some Sankhya philosophy. You may realize or may not. There's an unusually amazing story about one family, devotee family. And a young lady, she had a daughter, a couple of years old, something like this. And she was devotee for quite a bit. But any endeavors to preach or convince or explain the things to her mother was impossible. She didn't accept. Okay, you're still my child. What you can say to me, But then one day they visited the grandmother with a small daughter. She was just a couple of years old, hardly walking. No, she was walking. Sorry, hardly talking. She was walking. He was talking, and because her association with mother and hearing and everything, she had also some hints of the spiritual knowledge. And they were going around, visiting the grandmother's house. And of course, lunch prepared and everything. And then suddenly, the kid starts to scream and cry and everything. And what's going on? And she's crying, she's running to the mother. Grandmother, she's keeping dead bodies in the fridge. After that day, the grandmother became vegetarian, at least. That was realized knowledge, experienced knowledge. So those things we have to go through. Unless we have a spiritual intelligence understanding the Krishna's presence through his energies and so on. Arjuna, this is also chapter, I think first canto, is said that Arjuna, when he also he saw Krishna leaving, but not leaving just like a gopis, he left on the town. He left the world. All the Yadu dynasty and Krishna left. So Arjuna was completely in anxiety too. Not exactly the same anxiety as in the Kurukshetra, when he didn't fight. Now he had a problem what to do. I was a friend, I was a servant of Krishna. Now he left, what are you going to do? And what he was doing, he remembered all the instructions what Krishna gave him. And not only him, it is said also King Yudhishthira. He also remembered instructions which he heard Krishna giving to Arjuna. And he decided, and that's an interesting word, he decided to go back to Godhead. Just like that. Like we decided to go to lunch, prasadam, he decided I'm going to go back to Godhead. And he did. And he did. Amazing enough, he did. All the Pandavas, they were just completely, as here, Kardama, they took vanaprastha. Not really sannyasa, like they just walked. An interesting sentence about vanaprastha life is, when you become old enough, you just start walking. You start walking towards north. And you walk, and you walk, and you walk until you fall down and leave your body. So same thing exactly was done by Pandavas. They just walked up to the Himalayas, And one after the other, they were leaving their bodies. But they were completely pacified. They were completely peaceful without anxiety, vishoka. Since they all remembered Krishna's instructions, and Krishna's instructions were quite simple. Which was that verse which I liked. Going down. Brahma Bhuta, it's 18th chapter, just before the end. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na shochati na krankshati samak sarva bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhyate param. 1854. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. No anxieties. So when you understand first of all of yourself as a spirit soul, which is nothing to do with material body. Yeah. Like we understand, I'm nothing to do with the clothes. I can take it off any moment. And it will be taken off any moment. From the universal perspective, it will go. So when you lose identity with the material things, when your false ego doesn't anymore say anything belongs to me, it's mine. And you kind of pull it in a little bit more and you go, okay, forget it about Germany. At least the body is mine, right? At least that is mine. No, that also will be taken away. So when you reach the meditation of your spiritual identity, which is deep relationship, emotional relationship, that was a very important part, because it is said that Arjuna, he remembered those instructions because they were given with such a love and care. So Devahuri is also going to be realized because her son is giving her the whole philosophy, whole instructions with such a love and care about the mother. So those instructions which we will give to someone with love and care will be taken. Because maybe even the words which we talked will be forgotten. But that loving care and spiritual realized knowledge which expands in the words will stay with the soul. Anything else, the material wealth, even comfort, like today's morning Bashar was reading, the real welfare is giving knowledge. You can give the comfort to the body, you can give comfort to mind even, emotional support. And then you get used to emotional support. And when the emotional support is not there, the supporter goes away, you're in anxiety. The husband goes away, she's in anxiety, right? Even our spiritual master, goes away, and we're in a deep anxiety. All the Prabhupada disciples, when Prabhupada left, was such a deep anxiety. And what happened? What happened? Yes. Because of this emotional support. But those who were meditating on his instructions, they became gurus, and they're still gurus. How to live, how to behave, what's the mission, Prabhupada? If you are able to do that, that emotional support you're able to give others. And that's the thing which here is kind of have to read between the lines. She is currently asking, please give me emotional support. If you cannot, leave me a son. And son, by giving the proper spiritual knowledge, he will give this fearlessness. He will give this spiritual knowledge and realization in which you will be Ashoka without lamentation in any situation. So this is a result of spiritual realization, of receiving knowledge from the person who is caring about you. So if we want to advance, we have to find a person who is willing to talk, who is caring, and in such a way the spiritual knowledge will be imparted in our hearts. So if you are less advanced, you have to find the person. If you are more advanced, we can find that support and knowledge by reading the scriptures of Shrimad Bhagavatam. It can be fully realized. But because the same Shrimad Bhagavatam will say, you have to accept the spiritual master. They'll do it, because it's part of instructions. So it's a whole goes, the system is complete. So in one stage you look for those things because you want emotional support. In other things, you will do that because the scripture says. In one thing, we want to act material ways because it's vikarma. We want not just activity for results, but extreme activity for results. When we become devotees, we do the same activity. Not because we want to eat, but because we want to make nice prasadam for the Lord. But outside the activity will be the same. So, anything. That was an example of cooking. But any activity which usually we do as a karmis, as a people gaining, trying to give results, may be utilized for Krishna's pleasure. Anything. That's a key. It's a key of Krishna consciousness. Not skip, not try to be inactive. But keep activity, keep a situation, but make it spiritualized. By remembering Krishna all the time, by remembering his instructions, in such a way we'll be fearless and able to give both emotional support and spiritual knowledge to everyone we meet. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? My ice cream is dissolved. No sugar. Any realizations?
What can one do if he's on the platform of always making the same mistake but not learning?
Same mistake but not learning. Well, there's two options. Either everybody else sees that you make a mistake and you don't see yourself. That's one level. Other thing is, you understand yourself that you're making a mistake, but you still do it. That's more interesting question. Which one was the first part or second part? Probably second. Both. Yeah. Well, if a person makes a mistake and you see, and probably for Prabhupada it was quite a bit of a tough time because all the young devotees and young disciples were pretty clumsy in their devotional services, making mistakes all the time. When you look at yourself and you know those mistakes happen, you have to understand that there is a, as Prabhupada explains, the fan which is working and turning, even switched off the electricity, will turn for some while. The main thing is, what is the energy, the pushing energy? So if the energy or desire or goal or habit which maintains that mistake is nullified, then those mistakes will go away. If we don't nullify the reason, the external appearance will be going on for a long time. So if that continuous mistake gives us misery, that misery could be one of the reasons which we got to get rid of them. Or we lack of better experiences also, the higher taste. So if you don't develop taste of not making mistakes or more positive activity, then they have to be filled up with mistakes. The space is not left void. It has to be filled with something. Mistake means doing something wrong. And we also tend to think that mistake is in doing. But as I mentioned, the mistake is not in doing mistake. Mistake is not connecting to Krishna. Mistake is thinking that everything depends on activity. So if activity is wrong, I'm wrong. But activity could stay the same. There is no activities. Even Arjuna was told, I want to be Brahmana, I want to refrain from battlefield, I will go begging. And Vishwanath Chakravarti says, it's not mentioned, but he says, even the duties of Brahmana has faults. So there is no faultless activity in material world. Any activity is mistaken, not because activity itself, but because why we are doing, because for whom we are doing. Mistake is not some activity, okay, this is more or less mistake. Mistake is because I do it for myself. So that we can change easily, and then even mistake will become good. What example would be? Just don't say your example, just out of ear. Some mistake. What comes to your mind? What would be mistake?
Sleeping too long.
Is that mistake?
Oversleeping the morning program.
Well, you're absorbed in something. I had a dream, for example, tonight, which was something to do with the war and tanks and stuff like that. When you wake up, it's like, it's such a terrible thing, It just without Krishna, any situation turns into the suffering. So when you do mistake, first of all, you understand you're enjoying something. Unless you will develop gradual attraction and enjoyment in singing and waking up, then that sleeping, that thing will give you pleasure. Because pleasure is acting according to your modes of nature. So, if you are rising up your mode of nature from Tamaguna, Rajaguna and Sattvaguna, that gradually, then waking up will be more natural. So it's not mistake. It's acting according to your modes of nature. So rising up above a modes of nature, you have to start with that time in which you're already woken up and practice some activity which you like and which you consider not mistake, and dedicating that to Krishna. And from that thing, you will get a taste. And your modes of nature will be purified. And then make mistakes. So, definite thing is less concentration on the faults, more concentration on things which you know it is good, but still offering and dedicating them to Krishna. And that will make Krishna happy, and He will give your blessings that you'll be overcoming all the lower modes of nature. There's no other way. Yeah. Like, you don't concentrate so much on mistakes. You concentrate on things which you don't think is mistakes, but offering them to Krishna. Because many times we are having the mixture of gunas. So, understanding we're doing wrong, that means we have some little bit of knowledge, but still activity is tamaguna. But because we are a mixture of three gunas of nature, there'll definitely be some activity in mode of goodness, which we'll think it is good. But because this is material mode of goodness, we will not think of Krishna that time. We will not be dedicating or trying to please Krishna by that activity. So in a way, take those activities which you think is not mistaken and offer them to Krishna such a way, by His pleasure, He will give us blessings so we can overcome even lower gunas. We'll be raised gradually to a higher level. So at some stage, this anartha nivritti is very important. Yes, destroying the unwanted things. But you understand, you cannot do it by yourself. The power by which destruction of the anarthas comes about comes from the Lord, from Bala, from Balaram. He is the original source of the strength, and gradually that strength is transferred to the spiritual master and to the devotees. So the power of spiritual strength to overcome any mistake which is based on ignorance and tamaguna is coming from the strength from Krishna through the spiritual master for the devotees. So by meditating, by looking, by experiencing other devotees being happy by waking up in Mangalarati, you'll think, okay, maybe I also. Yeah. You don't think of mistake or mistake, because this is also a big problem with depression. You meditate on your faults. And this is also a huge problem with the current psychological, therapists, You have to go through the negative experience. You have to go through, You have to feel bad about yourself. What's the point? Even feel bad or good, it's nothing to do with Krishna, with your own. It's just you completely get absorbed in your emotions, Some says you have to have positive thinking, some says you have to go through the bad experiences. It's duality. Bhayam dvitiya tenesh. If you get absorbed in secondary things not connected to Krishna, either goodness or ignorance, still not good. Yeah, Arba.
I'm thinking that in the plant devotees we very much see such qualities as humans or faults. Also interesting.
Fault, but where is the fault coming from? The fault coming from your previous association with the bad people or with the bad gunas, So being absorbed in the things which come your past. What is past? Is ignorance. Too much being absorbed in the past, that's ignorance. Too much being absorbed in the future, that's passion. Too much being absorbed in a current situation, that's your goodness. Krishna asks, he pushes us to be acting now. Yeah, not too much absorbed. Okay, I'm bad. Why are you bad? Because you had bad friends? Usually, yeah. Bad association. You don't concentrate too much on the things which you did before, or your conditioned nature as such is a result of your past. We shouldn't be acting based on that. If we act based on scripture, if we act on the instructions of spiritual master, on desire of Krishna, that's not only current, it's above current, it's transcendental. In such a way you are able to transcend all the goods and bads of material. Like, killing someone, is it a mistake? We walk around Tulsi and say, Brahmahati, killing Brahmana, is that mistake? Killing a Brahmana accidentally or intentionally? Quite a big mistake. Just imagine killing one of the Brahmanas here in Simhachalam. How much you would think it's a big mistake compared to sleeping in the Mangalarati. Still, by just walking around the Tulsi, you can completely nullify that. So that means the hint, associating with more advanced Vaishnavas, can get rid of you any mistakes and anything, any faults. It's just like that. Okay, we have to finish. Grantharaj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.